I may have been the first casualty of the Build Back Better plan. 3 hours after President Biden's inauguration, I lost my job on the construction of the Keystone Pipeline.
Well, that man's story is just one of hundreds, and he joins us now. Neil Crabtree, former Keystone XL pipeline worker, still out of work. Good to see you tonight. You know, President Biden keeps touting clean energy jobs. They're so much better. They pay so much more. The new jobs that are coming that we haven't seen yet. But for you, you lost your old job, and that new job is not there right now.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, that's kind of the point we've been arguing. We have projects across this country that are ready to be built right now, and we're kind of sitting on the sidelines for, promises of jobs to come in the future. And that's, what are we supposed to do in the meantime is the biggest question that some of us are asking.
Yeah, and one thing that we spoke about in the previous segment was the importance of pipelines as infrastructure in this country to transport oil, to move it around, to make sure it gets where it needs to go, because if it's stuck in the ground or in a warehouse, it doesn't help that much. And many times people would say, well, it's not safe to do it by pipeline. It's far less safe and more expensive to do it by rail and truck, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Pipelines, they don't leave the carbon footprint that moving oil and gas by rail do. And that's the reason that we're seeing some of these higher prices right now is because, the public's got to know that, especially with the natural gas, we have the natural gas. It's available. There isn't a shortage. The problem is the cancellation of a bunch of these projects that should have already been in service. And most of it has been in the Northeast where they need it the most. We've canceled so many pipelines up there in the last 3 to 4 years that we're going to start seeing the effects of it this winter.
All right, Neil, stay right there with us because I want to bring in Mark Murphy. He owns an oil company in New Mexico, and Jay Young, King Operating Corporation founder and CEO. Great to see you gentlemen as well. Jay, I want to start with you because I've spent a lot of time down in Texas at production facilities, visiting the rigs, seeing what they're doing. But this is over the last decade or so when the boom was happening. Now the tide is turning, and you've got big companies saying they're hesitant. They don't want to necessarily invest in the future because of the agenda that's being laid out by the administration. How's it impacting your company? How is it impacting other companies on the ground in Texas?
Yeah, and I took a flight from Dallas to Midland today, and I thought it was going to be completely full. It wasn't. And then I get to the Hilton downtown, and they're half full. Oil's at $85 a barrel, and we're not seeing that huge entire, impact that you did before. Well, look at Exxon made $6 billion last quarter, and they spent $10 billion buying back their stock.
Yeah.
They didn't put the money back in the ground is what they would do before because they have people on their board now, and they're going green. I call it greener because we'll never go green, but they're recyclables. They're not wanting to drill for oil and gas. Your rig count is still down. And you're not drilling for oil and gas. And when you do, it's just, it was like, it's not a ghost town like it was in cycles. My family's been in the business for over 100 years. It's not a ghost town here in Midland, but it's not like it's $85 oil. I figured I'd get here and everybody would be, partying in the streets, and we're back, and this is exciting.
You bring up a fantastic point because it's not so much the prosperity when it comes to the industry is not so much about the price of oil, $80 right now, $85 just a few days ago. It's really about the right tipping point, right? And Mark, I want to ask you about this because around $50 a barrel, it seemed like everyone was happy. The oil companies were making money, gas prices were lower. It was that right balance where people could kind of thrive, the companies could do well, they could hire people. It's an amazing point when you think about Texas. I don't know what it's like in New Mexico, but these communities, it's not just about the people who are working on the rigs. It's the hotels, it's the gas stations, it's the diners, it's the clothing shops, it's Main Street. All of that is supported by the oil industry.
Yeah, that's right. I own and run a small independent oil and gas company. We have 16 employees. We're a classic independent producer. Our job is to go out and discover oil and to deliver it so it can be converted into gasoline and electricity and plastics and clothing and a whole lot of things. And Neil's story is just sort of the tip of the iceberg. We see it all through the oil patch down here. Pipelines being canceled, permits not coming through. And to Jay's point, which I think is a really good one, is that we are at $80 a barrel. But a good measure of the industry activity is the rig count, right? And so if you look back 18 months, pre-pandemic, we were about $80 or $85 a barrel, which is where we are right now. Well, we're running half the rigs. Yeah. And that's why Midland's not full, and that's why the hotels aren't full, and that's why, and it's not just Midland, but it's all the small communities throughout the West, and everybody from, the local barber to the gas station owner feels the impact.
Yeah.
And $50 to $60 a barrel is certainly a tipping point for many of these projects. And so if we get above that, we can have a reasonable level of activity.
Neil, Mark, Jay, great to see you all. And of course, Neil, we wish you the best. We'll continue to follow up with you as well.